What's going on, people in internet land? Kimchi Chris here, and welcome to today's brand new episode of Rock Bliss with Kimchi Chris. And oh boy, today we are discussing something we never talk about. That's right, we're talking about the rock and roll phenomenon known as Kiss. And the reason we are talking about the hottest band in the land today is because the A&E Kiss Biography flick just released. That's right, the two-night event, the two-part event, 4 hours of Kiss Biography, unless you watched it with the commercials cut out, and then it's just shy of 3 hours. And this is something we've known about for a while. The band's been hyping it for a while, they've been talking about it for a while, and as a result, Kiss fans have been arguing about it for a while, because that's what we do as Kiss fans. We're very passionate about our favorite band, and we want to make sure that other Kiss fans know our own opinions, regardless of if we agree with the others, and that's just how Kiss fans work. But with it having a longer running time, would they dive into some stuff they had not, gotten into in the past, or would they kind of rehash the same old? Because there's a lot of Kiss bios out there, as well as some very extensive interviews and things of that nature. So what was going to be different this time? And one of the earliest points of contingency was the fact that Ace and Peter just weren't going to be involved. This was a Gene and Paul product, which isn't anything new in Kissdom in 2021, but the fact that this was a celebration of the band's history and whatnot, and they weren't going to be involved was telling from day one, just to be completely honest. And even when you watch the actual special, it has a disclaimer that comes up that says Ace and Peter do not endorse this product. Oh boy, they are setting the standard that these guys are going to be torn apart in this bio, or at least that's what you would think. So it opens just like any other biography about any famous band ever. It talks about the early days, mostly focusing on Gene and Paul. If you were not a hardcore fan, you would think they were the only guys in the band, basically. But they eventually talk about Ace and Peter a little bit and kind of get into the early days, talk about the struggle and them, being one of the biggest bands in the scene and getting kicked off tours because the show was just so big and they couldn't dial it down for anyone because we're Kiss. This is how the big boys do it, even in 1973. But in all reality, it's a pretty good intro. I love seeing that old footage. I love hearing them reminisce about the old days, and it just seems like a good vibe in the beginning of this special. So they make their way through the first 3 albums and of course highlight how the records were not super successful, but then Alive comes and boom! Everything is big and everything is great and the band is on top of the world. And of course then they kind of fast forward to Destroyer and talk about where problems started to seep into the band with Ace not showing up to sessions and how they weren't really sure how to even follow up Alive and things of that nature. These things that we've heard 1,000 times before, but it's still kind of interesting the way they approached it, because Peter didn't give permission to use Beth in the documentary, so they don't even really talk about Beth being a huge hit, which is, not exactly something you want to leave out of a big production piece like this on the history of the band, but they weren't allowed to use the music, so they just didn't even really talk about it. And it's at this point in the special where things do get a little bit weird, where they start kind of leaving things out, and if you weren't a hardcore fan, I feel it'd be kind of hard to follow, because they don't even mention Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, or Alive 2. If you were watching this as a fresh fan out of the gate that maybe knew a few of the hits, but wasn't super hardcore in the band, you would think that they put out Destroyer, and then they put out the solo albums, because they kind of just skip everything there. They talk about the band being big, they show footage, but they don't even mention the album titles or show the album covers. Very, very, very odd. But we get through the solo albums, we get through Phantom of the Park, we get up to Dynasty, and of course they are starting to talk about how there are cracks forming in the Kiss power structure, and that's where part 1 ends right there. And I gotta say, despite me pointing out some of the negative aspects of them just leaving things out that maybe they had to because of the different permissions and whatnot, I thought it was done very well. I thought the production was really cool. The new interviews with Gene and Paul were really well done. There was some archival footage that I wasn't super familiar with, and definitely some pictures I don't think I had seen before, so they definitely reached in a little bit there to try to get some new stuff. Of course, it showed a lot of the footage we've seen over the years, but if you don't watch all that footage from like 1974 up to like 78, 79 and don't get just a magical feeling in you, then you're not a Kiss fan. That's the time we all love, we all want to relive, we want to go in a rock and roll time machine, and we want to go back there, and we want to see Alive, we want to see the Love Gun tour. That's what we want to see. So getting to experience all of that on TV in 2021 with the best quality you can get for that type of video, it's still a pleasure to watch, and it's done really well. Part 1 It was good. I enjoyed it for sure. And then we get part 2, and it basically picks up right where part 1 left off. It kind of opens up with Unmasked and Peter leaving, Eric Carr coming in, Ace leaving, Vinnie Vincent coming in, the makeup coming off, Mark St. John coming in, Bruce Kulick coming in. It's kind of crazy. It's a lot to take in if you're not a hardcore fan, because they kind of just rush through these areas, and I think you would have a really hard time following it if you were not a hardcore fan. Now, me watching this as someone who knows all the history, I thought it was put together well. It looked cool. The cinematography was nice, but it's weird to say that they rushed things on a 3-hour documentary, but there were certain areas they rushed through. They concentrated like 45 minutes on the formation of the band, but then just rushed through like 5 years of pivotal history, which was really bizarre, but it was still enjoyable to watch as someone who, you know, pretty much knew what was going on. And it was around this time where we get to see Bruce Kulick on screen with some new interviews. That was really, really cool. He always is just such a class act, so thankful to be involved in these things. We, before this, of course, had seen Gene and Paul as well as a bit of Eric Singer and Tommy, but seeing Bruce was really cool. I like seeing Bruce on these things. I like seeing him included. And his clips were really insightful, of course. And they did concentrate a fair amount on the passing of Eric Carr, which I thought was good that they did bring it up. They also admitted some fault in the fact that they kept moving forward and put him in a bad spot, so I always think it's good when they admit at least some fault in that situation, since of course it's been talked about through the years that that was not handled the way it probably should have been, but they still kept it overall fairly positive, which was good. Then they fast forward to Revenge, and then really fast forward to the conventions, Unplugged, and the reunion, and that's where they kind of stayed for a while, which makes sense because the reunion was huge, and of course they concentrated on that. But that's also where they finally got to the point of, you know, talking some mess about Ace and Peter, which I'm the Kiss fan that looks at these things logically. I do look at these things from a business perspective, because guess what? Kiss has been a business from day one. And if these things that were said about their drinking and their drugging and everything else are true, I get where Gene and Paul are coming from. I get where they're coming from. Are they exaggerated? I don't know. We always saw these guys on stage. They talk about in the documentary even how Ace couldn't even stand, and then they show a clip of him just like tearing through a great guitar solo. So you wonder if some of these things are exaggerated, but even Ace himself in particular has admitted that he messed up quite a bit the first time around as well as the second time around. So you gotta wonder what's what. But if it was as bad as they say it was, I get it. I completely get it. On the other hand, of course, trying to ignore the history and the hard work they did building the band and the brand is pretty ridiculous as well. But from a standpoint of strictly a working relationship, I get it. I can't work with people that are falling apart like that, so I completely understand it. And then of course they fast forward through that and get to where Eric and Tommy have entered the band, and they weirdly kind of end it right there. They kind of show a quick clip of the symphony and then fast forward to the end of the road tour, but ignored everything in the middle, which I find interesting because I figured they would at least recap that with like 5 or 10 minutes with you know, some big bold statements like Kiss continue to rule the world, Motley Crue open for them, Def Leppard open for them, all of these amazing things happen in the world of Kiss because it's a Kiss world and we're just living in it. But they didn't do that. I was very surprised. I really thought they would take all those co-headlining tours and kind of turn them around to make it seem like they were Kiss tours and this and that, and that the end of the road was just a thing that had to happen. Mind you, the end of the road seems like it's never going to end, but with that being said, it kind of just stopped right there, and we were done with the A&E Kiss Biography Special Part 2. So overall, I thought the second one was done very well. Again, there were some weird parts and some things that were hard to follow if you weren't a hardcore Kiss fan, but that really just shows that the history of this band is hard to follow, especially from like 1979 to like 1992-ish, maybe. Even past that, it's kind of hard to follow. Things get really murky if you weren't following along the whole time, basically. And I just feel to really kind of experience everything the way you should have, you would have probably had to have like a 6 or 8 hour documentary, it seems, because they just skipped over so many important things. But overall, I enjoyed it. I thought this was a really good special. I thought it was done really well. Up till now, my kind of go-to Kiss bio special would be the Extreme Close-Up, and I'm always gonna have a place in my heart for that one because I kind of like the place the band was at that moment and how they presented themselves and talked about their history and kind of looked at everything. But this one was nice. I definitely enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to anybody that's a Kiss fan. If you're a newcomer to the band, you might be a little bit confused. But if you're a hardcore Kiss fan, which let's face it, if you're watching this stupid episode, you're probably a hardcore Kiss fan. Check it out. Go check it out. I know it was on TV. They're rerunning it a bunch for a while. Also, you can buy it for $5 on Amazon Prime, and I gotta say, for what you get out of it, $5 is a steal. I know it's just a digital copy. We would all prefer a Blu-ray or something like that, but for $5, it's a steal on Amazon. I don't even know if you have to have Prime to do it. Maybe you can just do it with a regular Amazon account, still for the $5. I don't know, I have Amazon Prime, and I clicked the button, and I watched it on my PS5. It was a glorious moment. But I would love to know what you guys thought of this as well. So let me know in the comments below some things that you thought were good, some things you thought were maybe not so good. I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions. And as always, if you're new around here, hit that subscription button, give the thumbs up, all those things every YouTuber ever has told you to do. And my name is Kimchi Chris. This has been Rock Bliss with Kimchi Chris, and we will see you guys on the next episode.